Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to part number 9 of HTML tutorial series. In this lecture, we are going to study about HTML tables. That how do we create HTML tables inside the HTML document. And here we are having the table tag for this purpose. And table tag would use table row tag, table header, table head tag. Th tag is used for defining the table header inside the table, and you would have the td tag for defining the table data inside the table. For this purpose, we are going to see the practical example, and you would also have the text, images, lists or tables inside the table data. So we are going to create the table, file, new, inside the text editor called as brackets, file new, control S. We are going to save it as HTML10 on desktop. Okay, so we are having HTML tag starting over here, HTML tag ending over here. I want to rename it as, okay, we can save it as, suppose I didn't give any sort of extension to this, I would use suppose table22.html with the extension of HTML over here on the desktop, table22.html. Okay, so here we are having the HTML tag, the head tag, then we have the body tag over here, right? Head tag and body tag. Okay, inside the body tag I would use the table tag. Inside the table tag I would have my first row, and inside my first row I would have the table header. The first table header, the second table header is used for this purpose, and the first table header would hold the first name, the second table header would hold the last name, right? And all these table headers are inside the first row, right? Then we would create the second table row, and inside this table row I would have the table data. Two tables datas I want to have in my row, right? There are two rows. Okay, the first table data would hold the first name, that would be Smith, for example. The second table data would hold the last name, that would be John, for example. So it would be, say, we would see it as Smith John. I have used table 22. Okay, I would see it on my desktop. Yes, I would open it with my Google Chrome browser. Yes, headers and the data is over here. So in this way we would create the table. So what if we want to create the border around the table? How do we display the border around the table? How do we make that border as collapsed? So we are going to see it over here. Inside the head tag we would use the style tag. Style tag starting, style tag ending. Style tag defines the is for the CSS properties settings, and here I am using the internal style sheet. For internal style sheet I would have I would use style tag inside my head tag, and I would set the CSS properties as border, Firstly, I have to select the HTML element. I want to make the border around my table HTML tag, the header, as well as I want to create the border around my table data tag. Okay, first we will select the HTML elements. These are the HTML elements. Changes, what sort of changes do I want to make? I want to make its border as 4 pixels thick, solid in style, and black in color. Here you would declare the color. Okay, this way we would create the border. See what happens. Yes, I am getting the border, but this border is doubled. So what to do to make this border as a single border? I would use the property named as border collapse. Border dash collapse colon collapse. I would see my border as collapsed in this way. That would not be the doubled border. Right, reload, the border is collapsed. I am seeing the single border over here. So in this way you will use the properties for the table. And what do we need to create or to increase the distance or to decrease the distance between the cell content and its borders? I would use the property called as padding. Padding and colon number of pixels over here. Right, we will add the cell padding. Padding colon 15 pixels. Suppose I want to pad it with 15 pixels. See what happens. Yes, all of these items are padded with 15 pixels. Suppose John is having the distance of 15 pixels from here, top, 15 pixels from bottom, right and left. Right, in this way I would do padding. That is the distance between the content and its border. So it is set as with 15 pixels. For text aligning, for aligning the text towards the left or towards the right, we would use text dash align and the name of the property over here. As we know that table heading is by default centered and bold, so we can set table heading in this way, right? Then we have, what if we want to um, increase or decrease the space between the cells? I would use border spacing and the border spacing property with the value, any sort, any type, any value you want to declare it over here, you would do this. Okay, so we are going to see this property, border spacing, that is the space between the cells. Okay, suppose inside the table HTML element I want to create the border spacing, border dash spacing, and suppose I want to give the distance between the cells as 30 pixels, just to show you the difference. Border spacing of 30 pixels. It is not giving any type of. To set the border spacing for a table, use CSS border spacing property. It is to specify the space between the cells. It would increase the space between the cells. Suppose if we use it with double quotes, I don't think so it would create any type of difference with the double quotes. Okay, you can practice it. The property is used in the similar way. It would create the distance of 30 pixels between the cells of a table. These are the cells, and it would create the space of 30 pixels between the cells of a table. We can also view this property in our onwards lectures. I would make it clear to you. Okay, but the syntax is this: border spacing and the number of pixels are over here. Okay, then what if we want to merge a lot of rows, one more than one row, and a lot of columns, more than one columns? We would use the property of row span and column span, right? I'm going to see it over here. Suppose inside the table header, I want to show my table header by using two rows, for example. So I would do it like this: row span equals, I want to merge two rows, so I would use to row span to control S. Okay, so first name is created by using two rows. Two rows are used for creating first name. And what if I want to use columns, two columns for showing my first name? I would use col span. Col span means it would merge two columns together for that particular table header or the table row. Table header is first name would be um, inside two columns. See, here it is with two rows only. Now it has used two columns for this purpose. And onwards, we would have, what if we want to give the caption to a table? If we want to give heading to a table, you would use the style property, that would be the internal style sheet. You would use that is for the actually the width of a table, that is style equal to width equal to 100%. That is to give the width of a table. And for particularly for caption, I would use the caption tag. The caption tag would show the heading on the table, heading above the table. Here we have the monthly savings. I would use caption tag over here. Here it has given. Okay, you just have to remember that always use the caption tag after the table tag. Caption tag starting, caption tag ending. I want to name it as name, suppose name database. Okay, control S. Always use caption tag after table tag. Yes, name database is over here. So in this way you would give the caption to a table. Special style for one table. What if you have two tables or more than two tables inside your HTML document, but you want to set the property only for one table? You would do it as, you would give the ID to that particular table and you would add the property to that particular table in this way. Suppose I'm going to copy and would show you. Okay, suppose I have one table over here. I would create, I would tell you onwards that what I have done over here. So first, to do this example, I am making another table by copying the same table again, and I would, yes, now I am having two tables, right? Control S, see what happens inside our browser. We are having these two tables. Okay, now what if we want to make some changes in one table only among these two tables? I would set the ID of my table as ID equal to 01. you would have the attribute named as id equals to, you would have double columns, and you would have the id, suppose 01 over here, control s. Okay, now you would set the property for this as hash 01. In this way the id of the table is selected, and you would have the width of this table as 100%, and the background of this table would be this. Okay, in the same way as you use the internal style sheet in your table, you are using internal style sheet for this particular table. Control S. Now see what happens inside your browser. Nothing is going to happen. Okay, I think I didn't use T over here. I'm using T over here. See what happens. By using T I would have, no, suppose I would use table over here. I'm getting some problem. Table number 1. Okay, table number 01. Control S. Okay, table number T01. It should have shown the property, but it's not giving me the result. I'm going to see what type of issues I have. Table ID equal to 1. Suppose I give it as 1 over here. Table ID should be given in this way, equals to 1. Right. This is the correct way. Okay. Okay, now inside my style sheet, I would use hash and the name of an ID. Hash, the name of an ID is 1. I want to set it width as 100 and the background color as this. See what happens. It's not showing the type of error. Shift control I, if I would use shift control I for this purpose, shift control I is used to see what type of errors or the issues you are having inside your table. This is body tag block, 18 pixels, 8 pixels margin display as block. Okay, console, it's not showing any type of error. Suppose it should show the difference. Table 1 is ending over here. This is table 2. Okay, control S, reload. It's not going to show any type of difference between these two tables, but the syntax is the same. You would create two tables and you would set the id of the table in this way. Table id equals to, in double columns, in double quotes, you would have the id of that table, and you would select the table in your style sheet as hash and the name of id which you have given, and you would set the properties over here for that particular table. That should show the difference, but we will see the details that uh, what are the issues with this, and we will cover it in our next lecture. Thanks for watching and kindly subscribe the channel, and we will continue onwards with this thing. Allah Hafiz.